Today I am running down my top 10 tips for performing live, so stick around. Hey everybody, welcome to the Warmouth channel. I'm Aaron at Warmouth, and yes, today I am running down my top 10 tips for performing live, and these are things that I've gleaned after years and years and years of performing live in all kinds of bands, in all kinds of venues, in all kinds of weird situations and circumstances, and so I hope you're going to find these things useful. The first 5 have to do with kind of the logistical side of performing live, and the second 5 have to do with actual performance. So let's jump into it. Number 10, know your material, and this kind of goes without saying, which is why I put it at number 10. You need to be well practiced, which is what you do at home. You need to be well rehearsed, which is what you do together with your band, and you need to know your material inside and out. There's an old saying that amateurs practice until they get it right, and pros practice until they can't get it wrong. And I think that that is hogwash. For example, I've been practicing walking my whole life, and I am really, really, really good at it. But sometimes I'll catch my foot in a funny way, or sometimes I'll misstep and stumble a little bit, and that is just life. So you need to be prepared for all of your practice and all of your rehearsal to betray you. And you know, maybe you'll come to a point where you've played something 1,000 times and all of a sudden it's just gone from your mind. Or, you know, maybe you'll step up to the mic and when you open your mouth to sing, you accidentally burp. Or maybe somebody in the audience hits the mic stand and it racks you right in the teeth. Or maybe your singer steps on your guitar cord and it comes unplugged. You know, all these things like learning to play through mistakes, learning to play through technical issues, that's a skill that has to be practiced and learned too. And that's a skill that you can only really practice and learn in front of an audience. So, you know, it's all a learning curve, but you want to be as practiced and rehearsed and know your material as well as you can, so when all those weird things happen, you learn how to play through those mistakes. On the other hand, sometimes circumstances keep you from rehearsing ahead of time. For example, I played a gig at the Tractor Tavern in Seattle 10 years ago, and I never met the drummer and I had never met the singer before that night. But we pulled it off, and the reason we pulled it off is because we all did our homework ahead of time. We knew those songs inside and out. We picked very specific versions of those songs so that we were all practicing the exact same thing. And then when we came together that night, it was actually one of the best shows of my career. But it was because we all knew the material as inside and out before we got there. Number 9, don't be too precious about your tone. You know, performing music is often an exercise in making music in front of a crowd under less than ideal circumstances, and that's not the time to be all picky about which chip is in your tube screamer. A lot of times when that curtain goes up, you haven't had a good sound check, you're playing on borrowed gear or backline gear or shared gear, you haven't had a good meal and so you're grumpy because you're hungry, you're worried about some personal matter that you're going to have to deal with when the gig is over. And when the curtain goes up, it's time to smile and make it happen for all the people who came to see you play. So that is not the time to be precious about your tone. Number 8, share your gear. And this kind of falls under the same heading as don't be too precious about your tone. But if you do fly dates or you play festivals enough, eventually you're going to be playing on backline gear. And this is gear that doesn't belong to you, and you haven't had a chance really to get to know it. And so you have to learn to be flexible about playing on unfamiliar gear. But even the smallest shows can benefit if you share your gear with the other bands that are on that bill, especially drums. It makes the changeover between bands quicker, and it also makes all the bands sound better because the sound guy doesn't have to sound check and start a mix from scratch, you know, 3 times during the course of the night. They can get it all dialed in before the show starts, and then because you're sharing gear, they can just keep sweetening that mix, and it just makes all the bands sound better because you're sharing that gear that's already been sound checked. Number 7, have contingency plans. Bring a backup guitar. You do not want to have to change strings on a guitar, while there's dead air and 200 people are watching you. That is not fun, so bring a backup guitar. If you're doing a fly date and you can't bring a backup guitar, make sure you've got strings and a string winder. Make sure that you have a contingency plan for when the guitar amp fails and you need to buy some time. Usually this comes in the form of a shtick that the front man is going to go into while the guitar player tries to fix whatever's wrong with their pedal board or their amp. Have a contingency plan for when your vocalist's mic goes out. Maybe this is an instrumental jam that the band is going to jump into while the singer tries to get their technical issue figured out. Have contingency plans for all these things and backups. Have a contingency plan for when a band member has an illness or an emergency and they have to bail at the last minute. A lot of bands have standby members who know the catalog and are just kind of waiting on call. Usually these are members of other bands and they all kind of know each other, but you have somebody in the pocket who generally knows your catalog and can jump in at the last minute. As many threats to your band's survival as you can think of, you should have a contingency plan for all of those things. Number 6, have a system. Systems help you get things done quickly, efficiently, and best of all, without a lot of thought. For example, have a system for your sound check. There is nothing more beautiful than a sound check that follows a system, and you have an experienced sound person, you have an experienced band, they have a system, and the sound check it's a thing of beauty. And there's nothing more frustrating than a non-systematic sound check where everybody's just clamoring for the thing they need on top of each other. It drives you crazy. And sound checks are like worthy of their own video, so I'm not going to go into it that much. But just, if you can develop a sound system for your sound check, it's going to make your life easier. Have a system for putting away your gear. There's an old saying for putting away tools, a place for everything and everything in its place. And that can certainly apply to a musician's tools. Have a place for everything in your gig bag. Have a place for all your stuff in your car, a certain way that it fits. And this will make it obvious when something's missing. And a part of your system should be a dummy check. One last trip through the venue before you leave to make sure that you're not leaving anything behind. Number 5, keep it tight. Minimize the dead air between songs. Make sure that every band member has a set list so they can follow along, and make sure somebody is in charge of orchestrating this train ride so that they can keep it moving along. In one band, our frontman, our lead singer, is the guy who does that. And in that band, he's really good at gauging crowd reaction and knowing what song should come next. And so he's constantly calling audibles. But he's also very good at turning to the other band members and very clearly but subtly, in a way that doesn't distract the audience, he lets us know what song is coming next so that we're all ready to jump right into the next song. In another band, we use tracks, and so we don't call very many audibles, and it's the drummer who manages those tracks, who starts and stops them and keeps the pace, and he's also good at keeping it going. And one thing that will help you with this is when you look at your set list, don't think of it as individual songs. Look at it in chunks, like we're going to play these 3 songs without stopping. Then we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to play these 4 songs without stopping. Then a short break to say 1 or 2 words, and then these 4 songs. And that'll help keep things moving along. And lastly, do I even need to say it? Don't noodle or tune out loud between songs. Number 4, exaggerate. Playing music in front of the crowd is performing, and performing is acting, and acting is exaggerating behavior for effect. And that doesn't mean you have to do weird things and act like an idiot. It just means you need to be a little bit bigger version of yourself. Don't just do what comes naturally, because it's not everyday life. You're performing. What you want to do is exaggerate what comes naturally. Whatever your natural behavior it is, just exaggerate it a little bit so that the people clear in the back can see what's going on too. And this means exaggerating the clothes you wear. This means exaggerating your facial expressions or your body movements. And sometimes it means exaggerating your general enthusiasm, and have a little bit of swagger. This is your stage. Number 3, engage with your band. As far as the audience is concerned, everybody on that stage should be best friends. That's what an audience wants to see. So smile and make inside jokes and just enjoy jamming with these other people who are making music with you. Also, when you are performing music, communication between band members is a big deal. So keep your eyes up. Don't look down. Keep your eyes up. Keep your head on a swivel. Be looking around for cues. If you get lost in your head looking at your guitar neck, trying to remember your parts, or you're thinking about the vacation that you're taking off on the next morning or whatever, you're going to miss important visual cues from your band members. And another thing I will say is it's very romantic to close your eyes while you're playing the glorious notes of your solo, but you do not want to do that for very long. Don't stand there with your eyes closed. There is nothing more frantic than trying to get another band member's attention and their eyes are closed. And I'm going to share a story right now from one of my experiences with my Journey Tribute Infinity project. And I was playing the solo to Who's Crying Now, and that's a great song for guitar players because you don't have anything to do until that amazing solo at the end. And then you just get all the glory. So I'm playing that solo. It's a great melodic solo, and I decide for some reason I'm going to close my eyes through the whole thing. And one of my bandmates, and I will not name his name, but his initials are Randy Lauren, who, by the way, is a great friend, a great singer, and a great vocal coach if you're looking for lessons, savagely mocked me behind my back. And I didn't see it because my eyes were closed. I didn't even find out about it until after the gig, and people came up to me laughing at me about it. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I found out that Randy Lauren savagely and viciously mocked me because my eyes were closed. So don't close your eyes for that long. You need to be able to communicate with your band members and be aware of any savage mockery. Number 2, engage with your audience. And this is a little tip that I picked up from a guitarist based in the Seattle area named Randy Hansen. And if you're not familiar with Randy Hansen, you really should be. He's been doing a Jimi Hendrix tribute act since long before tribute bands were even a thing. And he absolutely channels Jimmy's vibe. So if you're not familiar with Randy Hansen, I would encourage you to seek him out on YouTube and prepare to be dazzled because he's amazing. And I was fortunate enough to share a bill with him a couple of times early on, and he said something to me that just resonated with me. He said that if it's a bad night and there is only one person in the audience that is into what he is doing, he gives 100% of his show to that person. And that really resonated with me, and I've gone on to think of it over the course of my career in a little different way. When I'm performing, no matter how big or small the audience is, I find one person, and I give 100% of my show to that person for a few minutes. I make a personal connection with them, and then I find another person, and I single them out, and I give 100% of my show to that person for a few minutes. And I just repeat that and make these personal connections with these people, whether it's just a head bob or a thumbs up or a facial expression or a laugh about something. I try and make it a point of connecting individually with people. Now, of course, everybody's going to have their own way of engaging with the audience. That's part of exaggerating what comes naturally to you, right? So whatever it is that works for you, do it. Make sure you're engaging with your audience. Don't shrink back into yourself and, look at your shoes or look at your guitar neck. If you ever find yourself like with all your weight on one hip just standing there, you're doing it wrong. You have to engage with your audience. And number 1, smile. Smiling is one of the most important aspects of good stagecraft. So no matter whatever you're dealing with, whether it's a technical issue with your gear, or whether you're just performing, whether your guitar playing is off that night, or whatever, smile. If you make a mistake, smile. If your bandmate makes a mistake, smile. If the PA blows up, smile. And yeah, I know that smiling isn't always the way you want to look. If you're in a death metal band, smiling might look a little goofy. Most of the time you want to smile, but I guess you could say I'm using smile as an equivalent for intensity. Show intensity in your performance. Be present and smile. You want the audience to perceive that you're having a great time. So a really quick story about the one gig where I had the hardest time smiling. There was somebody in the band who had an equipment failure, and I won't go into the whole thing, but there was a misunderstanding and I was angry. I was so angry that while I was playing guitar, my elbows were trembling because I was so mad. And I know that all my bandmates can tell I was angry. I tried hard to smile. I don't know how well I pulled it off. But anytime you can, smile. Show intensity in your performance. And those are my 10 tips for performing live. I hope you found all that useful. That was a lot of talking, and I appreciate you watching the whole video. If you ever need guitar parts, I hope you'll think of Warmoth. We sell awesome Fender licensed replacement necks. We sell replacement bodies. We sell original designs. It's all there on the Warmoth website. If you have questions about any of it, give our service reps a call. And until next time, keep on picking.